Boom. We are alive, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tiho and the Arcane Bear. Thank you for joining us today. We are pretty much exactly 12.5/16 the way through the bull market right now. We are inching closer and closer to an end. And one of the things I wanted to go over today are reaccumulation and distribution, as they can appear very, very similar and in the final stages of the bull market, which I do not believe we are at yet. It'll be important to keep an eye on. For this sentiment, we usually don't try to catch and sell the top. We're usually selling into strength. This has been a lot of strength since we left $3,000 back at the beginning of the pandemic, so do keep that in mind. If you are new to this ecosystem, we are pretty high up already. Bitcoin here is now open on the 4-hour. Lovely Heiken Ashy candles. We saw our first buying climax or shakeouts, the spring, the start of our automatic rally, and then this move into what we believe is an SOS. And the reason why I want to talk about this area here is because this is often where reaccumulation turns into distribution. And you get a little bit of a scare moment that comes out. Something, maybe you do something like this. Bitcoin maybe even come as low as 52,000. That would be fine. That would still be okay. Now, one of the key factors here, usually, not always, and remember in these reaccumulation patterns, it's not as clear, but normally what we're looking for is actually a significant amount more supply coming into the market. Usually that equivalent to the shakeout on the buy up itself. So it would be the opposing aspect of the spring that we normally have been looking for. Now, what I find interesting here is that I don't think we've necessarily seen the spring yet either. If you watch back our previous episodes, you'll notice that the shakeout, where we usually like to measure our spring buy, has not occurred. And we did get that with the previous test in the previous trading range, where we saw that the spring and the primary shakeout, or at least the secondary test and the primary shakeout, had fairly similar volumes, again here and here, although declining, but also declining in volatility as well, so this was positive. So here we don't have that either, so everything still looks bullish. As you can see, the color behind me is still green. And as we float through the universe here right now, it's important to remember what we're doing is actually trying to maintain macro perspectives. That this bull market started in the heat, in the midst of a pandemic, and that's almost where all bull markets start, is at the height of fear. We have been parabolic since then. So if you are new to this ecosystem, you are incurring a lot more risk taking positions now, because Bitcoin may shoot up to $200,000 and then come dropping back down, or could turn around right now. Although we have not seen the indicators for that yet, it's still a possibility. Primarily though, if you go back and you look at our videos and our private newsletters, if you happen to be in the group, and you look at when we were looking at Fetch, we've seen 4,000, 8,000, 10,000% gains on some plays, which is absolutely absurd. So we have to imagine that we are actually a fair way through this bull market. And I know we love to think that, you know, it's just getting warmed up, it's just getting started, but it's not. We've been here for a while, and it's going to run out of steam eventually. So keeping a close eye on that is always important. But the moment right now, the trading range we're in at this moment, we don't see those signs. And those signs are usually indicated by a significant amount of supply coming in to try to push the price up and not achieving a newer price point. Here, again, we could make an argument that this is an equivalent to a spring, just up a little bit higher, because there is a similar supply characteristic, but it's not as much as I would like to see. So I do suspect we get one final shakeout. If we don't, if we stay above 55,000, we will probably continue up quite quickly. And then on the downside scenario, which is always a possibility, is if we come and close below 47,000, this will be a temporary big drop that we would see here. It's very unlikely that would happen at this particular moment, just because, again, the characteristics of the supply and the price signature look very healthy. But it's always good to keep in mind that it's a possibility. I think far too often we try to ignore that there are other possibilities other than what we think might happen, and we become far too confident in positions when we shouldn't be. Now, I personally believe we should be at this moment with Bitcoin, but that's another story. We want to just follow it step by step and day by day, because when it does end, I'm not trying to catch the exact moment it hits a top here. I'm simply trying to be out of the like having shaved off my profits through the strength before this leaves. So you know, a lot of the other profits that Bitcoin has provided lately have kind of funneled into more abstract plays as well. So we have been watching the rest of the ecosystem. Saw some pretty nice explosions over the last week. Kava here on the, Kyber network on the 4 hour. If you're in the private group, you go back into the Wyckoff setup area. We were watching this inverse head and shoulders move through this horizontal trading range into a widening megaphone pattern. I believe this is one of the reasons to think that we are a lot more bullish, not bearish, but a lot more bullish. A lot of these setups look really good so far. There are other areas too where we've seen very similar. Kava here on the 6 hour, you start to see this very similar rising megaphone pattern with a falling a bull flag, effectively, in a falling trading range. You could chart it horizontally, and as you can see, we actually have somewhat charted horizontally here too, with this being the top of the trading range. We are now in the backup phase here, so because there's so many apparent bullish phases, that's nice to see. The only downside is here with Kava is if we were to imagine that this is a larger trading range, like this, this is your spring, the massive amount of supply coming in can be worrying. So we're going to want to keep a close eye on these, and I think the altcoin market will develop some of our interest around what Bitcoin's doing too, because I think we'll see early warning like death signs coming from some of these other plays. At the current moment, everything still looks really healthy. We got, again, a really nice big jump on KNC. Our entries on FTX are doing great, or FTT, I guess, at around 32. We have broken out of the box, and it looks like we're just creating our backup phase here now. So it's nice to see. M stable, or Meta, has dropped right back down to the bottom of the megaphone pattern. I'm not particularly worried. I haven't taken a huge position here yet. But I did take a position. So just kind of keeping an eye on it. Probably should be playing more with the technology itself, but I'm a little bit weary at the moment. Avalanche looking super healthy at the moment. For those of you that have been following, you know I'm a big fan for some reason. I haven't totally found out yet why. But again, horizontal trading range. Excuse me, guys. You know, I always want you guys to do a better job charting than me. I've been doing it for so long now. Like a lot of the times, it's better to go all the way through, like to chart, to label everything, to draw it up properly, to clean your charts up. I'm just kind of watching by the fly. I've been buying almost on a day-over-day basis to basically lower my entry price for, or my secondary entry price for Avalanche. But here you can see we're hitting up the primary support's resistance against the green line. We've tried to touch into it twice now. You could even make conjecture that this is a small cup and handle. It is on a multi-week time frame, so it would fit that setting. And we can see this as, again, a reaccumulation after decline. And we've seen these bigger trading ranges do very similar things prior. Kava, again, is another great example of that, where you go out on the daily, you can see the reaccumulation after decline, and then the nice breakout pattern that comes afterwards as you slowly climb up the range. So I suspect that Avalanche is basically going to slowly climb up this area through 39 through 48, and then you'll just get a big explosion in a price around 60. It could take another few weeks, but primarily we're keeping an eye on a lot of things. So Balancer, another position we took recently, has been doing great today. Again, very similar pattern here, although I've kind of messed around with the channel. I originally took this entry because it looked like an inverse head and shoulders through the same type of reaccumulation pattern that we've been playing so many times before. I love that consistency in the market when you're seeing so many kind of aligning factors. Now here, again, we could mess around with how the widening megaphone pattern looks, and I think this is pretty clear here. But again, it was much more so this inverse head and shoulders on the reaccumulation pattern that was really enticing to me. And these are often, these schematics you will see often as a spring, where it's not a head and shoulders, it's actually a dip that comes down at the end of the accumulation range. Here we're seeing the dip of the spring really right through the center of the trading range into what's now become these really kind of quite obvious head and shoulders patterns. And again, we had that with Kava. It worked out beautifully. Here on the 6 hour, it's much more clear as well. Yeah, so here is the inverse head and shoulders. We followed into this trade as well. So again, this horizontal trading range mentality, what Wyckoff is able to provide here is so important because it gives us a real pulse in the market. And currently it does look like we're getting bullish. Although again, I am a little worried about the amount of supply that came in here to test the top of this range. So we do want to keep a close eye on this because this is often where a trading range can become distributional. So we want to keep a close eye on that. And we have seen that in the past before where it'll drop us all the way back down here or maybe even make a bigger handle potentially. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Kava. I removed most of my entry already just because we had gotten some pretty good entries earlier as well. So things are looking good. Sushi is just such a strong player. It's really interesting to see. I don't even know what this rising pattern is. I'm kind of waiting for it to drop down one more time and give us a real spring. But it's been nothing but declining volume, rising price this whole time. So it's very strong hands in Sushi right now, which makes sense. A lot of them bought at a low price and they've got a long-term game plan for how this goes. Band was another one that had the rising megaphone pattern take place, and then the horizontal trading range currently in a dip here. You can see again reaccumulation after decline on the left hand side, comes down and forms a nice trading range, goes up into the first SOS, LPS, SOS, and then we're now in the kind of secondary and what appears to be the final LPS ranges of this megaphone pattern. So I'm pretty excited about this. It looks like everything's gonna go ballistic very shortly. But again, we want to remember that with Bitcoin, what we're trying to anticipate is when these final tests of the top of the trading range become bearish instead, and that will be a real key moment to keep an eye on. It'll be something like this. Not if this happens, that's a, okay, let's quickly adjust. And this is also another reason why I never talk too much about exactly when or how to take profits. As soon as we see a distributional trading range instead of a reaccumulation range, we change our sentiment, and usually for a while. But this is a unique market, and you would rather be in it than out of it, from what I can tell. So it's always with cautious caution and reservation. I say that because a lot of new investors don't understand that and don't really grasp how easy it is to just maybe keep accumulating if you're new to the trading and investing game while continuing to advance your studies. So I'll leave it at that. A little bit of a short episode today. Everything has been going fantastic so far. I had a great dinner last night. Let's see here. Remember to go and follow us at Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and here on YouTube as well. Try to do these live streams once a day. It's a lot of fun for me. The venture capital stuff has been the most exciting, and the rewards have been the highest. So we're going to be leaning more and more into that, especially as the years go on. I love research by nature. I listen to hours and hours of scientific literature. It's one of my, and I read it often as well. So this is one of my favorite mentalities about the venture capital sectors. It just gives me more time to research, to study, and to really dive into the patients there as well. So I see you guys talking about ADA. It's in the thing. Yeah, again, generally speaking, I think if you look at yesterday's video, the same sentiment aligns. So keep that in mind. Like often what I'm saying the day before is still relevant the day after. You guys are all asking for some music as well. Yeah, I don't really want to look at anything else today. It's a short video. We looked at what I want to. I know where the market's at. I feel confident about where the market is at. And ADA didn't dump. Again, if you look at my video yesterday, I said very clearly that I felt confident that Cardano would come down fast because there's nothing but retail. Retail are the only people that leave those types of signatures. New investors buying hype, basically. So I try to stay away from that stuff. Yes, the channel is monetized. There's another way to get past ads, and it's to spend $10 a month by supporting YouTube. I do that because I get free access to their music player, which I can download any new album on my phone and play it. And I listen to a lot of music, so I chose not to use Spotify. I chose to continue to stay with YouTube because I liked the platform. And they don't do the best, but they're not the worst, and they've done a lot for me over my life because of my ability to go, hey, YouTube, I want to learn about something, and I could learn about something on YouTube. So definitely, if you haven't, I mean, try out the premium. I think it's 10 or 14 bucks a month. And then for me, yeah, I use a lot of the free music downloads. Like when the new Tool album came out, like bang, right there on my YouTube Music. The new Pussifer album, bam, there it was. And I like that. I like that they have access to a lot of the big artists that I like. Tool, Pussifer. So it was pretty easy for me. I see you said music a few times. Don't really know what I'd play. Don't really know what I would play right now. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. Thank you guys all for joining us. Here, I'll play the guitar. Okay, so we're gonna, I'm gonna do a vlog. I've been meaning to do it the last few days. I've just been kind of busy trying to catch up with some stuff. A lot to do, but yeah, I want to do a few more conversations around some abstract stuff. Yes. Anyways, oh yeah, I forgot that there's I can't even hear the music underneath. I've totally forgot about that. Haha, silly me. It would have sounded better without I couldn't even hear the music in the background either. That's so funny. Anyways, thank you guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Just a little bit of guitar. Apparently, should be playing more. We're gonna get this. We're gonna set it up so that there's more people working with the Arcane Bear, so that I can take more time to play music and write newsletters about venture capital again. Yes,